What's up guys, this is Dr. Webb here, orthopedic spine surgeon here in San Antonio, Texas. In this video today, I'm going to be talking about a video put out by Graham Stephans where he talks about the net worth of a doctor versus the net worth of a plumber. And I'm going to talk about the numbers that he kind of quotes and throws out there. Are these numbers really realistic? Is it possible to earn the same amount of money working as a plumber as it is as a doctor? And is this really true when he compares the two? We're going to jump right into it. Thank you to the sponsors of this video over at Pattern Life Insurance. You go through all of these years of training, sometimes 10 to 15 years of your life. And when you're done with your training, there are a few things that are very important to get. One of those things is disability insurance, and it's important to get true own occupation disability insurance. In the event that you are unable to work, or if you get injured, which 25% of people by the time that they reach retirement age will experience this, it's important to have a plan. Disability insurance, very important. It's also important to use a company that is an independent agency. That's what Pattern Life Insurance is. They're independent. They don't have any conflicts of interest. Essentially, you apply for the disability insurance and they will present to you various companies to find you the best policy for you. So there is really no conflict of interest. Some companies will give residents and fellows up to 40 to 50% off of their policy. So don't wait until you get out of training. Get it while you're in training. This is exactly what I did. I have disability insurance and just added a second policy here recently. In the event my hands get injured, I can't operate or see patients, well, the disability insurance will replace that income so my family is financially secure. So check out Pattern Life Insurance today. They are an independent agency. They will find you the best policy. I can assure you of that. And there's a link in the description to check them out today.
Really interesting article the other day that showcased the difference between the net worth of a plumber and that of a doctor. And the results were actually pretty surprising of who actually ends up having a higher net worth and at what age both careers balance out in terms of wealth. And the result is likely not what you'd expect. So here's the experiment. You have two people both starting off at the age of 18. One wants to be a plumber, one wants to be a doctor. Who is going to end up having a higher net worth, all things considered? Now, to do these calculations for congruency, we're going to assume that each profession saves and invests 50% of their take-home salary.
Whoa, that number is actually pretty high. 50% of your salary. Like, how many people actually do that? 50%. Most of the finance books and people that I've talked to, listened to, Dave Ramsey, other people, I mean, we're talking 15 to 20% of your salary that is supposedly going into savings. Although there are some people that invest and save a little bit more than this, some people a little bit less. I think 50% is a little aggressive.
We're also going to assume that the money that they invest is going to be getting an 8% return.
8% return is pretty realistic. I mean, that's kind of what you can expect from the S&P 500 and stock market. If you put your money into the stock market, anywhere between 8, 9, 10% sometimes less than that. So 8% is pretty realistic.
I'm also considering that each profession has pay increases that also increase with inflation.
That I disagree with. As a physician, as a doctor, it's not like we get pay increases every year or every few years. It's actually sometimes just the opposite. We get what's called pay cuts. So as time goes on and as medicine changes, a lot of physicians are seeing decreases in the amount of money that they're being reimbursed by insurance companies. For example, if you do a surgery, let's say in 2005, for a, let's say, total knee replacement, that total knee replacement for that particular physician would most likely have paid anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000. Well, in 2021, almost 15, 16 years later, for a total knee replacement, doctors are getting paid $800 to $1,400, $1,500. So that amount of money that you're getting paid for a particular service that you provide is actually going down. And it's not like every year a doctor gets a pay raise. It's actually just the opposite. Insurance companies are decreasing reimbursements. You actually have to do more to earn the same amount of money, which is not really intuitive. And if you compare this to a plumber who maybe works a certain amount of hours or gets a salary, well, that plumber is more likely to get a pay raise by working at a certain job. But as physicians, unless the physician is on an employed contract where they're getting paid by a hospital, maybe that physician will see some type of increase in their salary, or if they're at an academic center and everyone across the board is getting salary or pay raises, or if you get a promotion, that's another opportunity to earn a little bit more money as a physician. But overall, especially in private practice, the rates are going down.
So let's start out with the plumber first. The plumber starts out at the age of 18, making $12 an hour working as a plumber's apprentice. We can also assume a 50-hour work week at $12 an hour, meaning that our plumber is probably going to be pulling in about $2,400 a month or $2,000 a month after taxes. If he invests 50% of that, we can assume that the plumber in the very beginning is able to invest $1,000 per month.
I think that's kind of aggressive. Like, who makes $2,000 per month and puts $1,000 up for into the stock market? I mean, people just don't do that. The amount of money that you have to pay for rent, for food, gas, electricity, credit card bill. I mean, 50%. I think most people are not doing that really.
Because the plumber never went to college, there are no student loans, there's no debt, and the plumber can begin making and investing money right off the bat.
And he's assuming that the plumber doesn't have a college degree. There are a lot of plumbers out there that have college degrees, that went to college, and all of a sudden, hey, this is what they do for a living after college. But you know, a lot of plumbers don't have college degrees and don't go to college, so they may not have student loans. But speaking for the majority of people, maybe they don't have a college degree, and maybe he's right.
So now let's flash forward 4 years. Our plumber's now 22 years old and making $5,000 a month before taxes or $4,000 a month after taxes, meaning the plumber is going to be able to invest $2,000 per month. Then let's flash forward 10 years. The plumber is now 32 years old, making $100,000 before taxes, $70,000 after taxes, and can save and invest $3,000 per month. So let's start here. At the age of 22, our plumber should be worth almost $60,000, and that's 4 years of investing $1,000 per month at an 8% return. Then at the age of 28, our plumber should be worth almost $290,000. This is the base $60,000 that the plumber was worth at the age of 22, plus then investing $2,000 a month over the additional few years at an 8% return.
And that's assuming that the stock market gives an annual return of 8%. And we all know that the stock market kind of goes down and kind of goes up, and then over average, we're talking about 8%. But during these, 20-something years, that's if the stock market is kind of at that 8% mark, kind of on average. So some years you may earn less than that. Other years you may earn more than that. So 8%, sure.
Plumber is now worth $3.8, you ready for this? $million. This is the plumber's $290,000 base plus $3,000 per month invested over 22 years at an 8% return. Let that sink in for a second. A plumber worth $3.8 million just by saving and investing over the course of his career. So our 18-year-old plumber became a 50-year-old multi-millionaire. So now let's compare this with our doctor. Now the doctor is a little bit different because the doctor doesn't start saving and investing until much later in life.
But that's if you assume that most people aren't doing that. And yeah, I agree. Pre-med students, college students, but there are a lot of college students out there, pre-med students, medical students that are investing in the stock market. They may have an IRA or some type of investment vehicle that is, generating income kind of from a early kind of start. Especially, the students out there that have doctors in their family, their mom, their dad. They most likely have some type of investments already, kind of early on. So. But maybe for the vast majority of people, you're not doing much investing in medical school. You don't earn any money, or in college. So But there are some students who work and they invest their money, so it depends, but the vast majority of people are probably not doing much investing kind of that early on.
So let's assume that our doctor has 4 years of an undergraduate education that costs $20,000 a year, and let's also assume that the doctor pays down the student loans before investing anything. So this means at the age of 22, after 4 years of a college degree, our doctor is going to be worth negative $80,000.
And that's the big question, the big debate. Like, should you pay off your student loans or should you start investing? So if you come out of medical school, residency, fellowship, and you're $400,000 in debt and you're earning income, well, should you start paying down that $400,000 or should you put that money into the stock market? Well, there's different trains of thoughts of it. I listen to a lot of Dave Ramsey, and he always talks about the debt snowball and paying off your debt until it's paid off, and then after that you can invest and do whatever you want to do. So, and there's other trains of thoughts of people that suggest that you should refinance your student loans, get a really low interest rate, let's say to 2% or 3%, and then pay that, but at the same time invest your money into something that's going to earn you money like 8% into the stock market. So instead of putting all of your money into your student loans, take that money and put it into the stock market so you can start earning money kind of sooner. And then you kind of reap the benefits of that compound interest.
Then after those 4 years of undergraduate, the doctor is then going to have to go to 4 years of medical school. Let's then assume that each year of medical school is going to cost this doctor $50,000 per year.
That number is pretty realistic. Most medical students come out of medical school with about $250,000 to $300,000 in debt. So where I went to medical school at Georgetown, $100,000 per year, that's your tuition, your housing, your books, your fees. So most people coming out of Georgetown, you're looking at $400,000, $500,000 in debt, which is ridiculous. But the average, you're looking anywhere between $250,000, $300,000 to finance medical school. And it's crazy because you can get a home loan with a lower interest rate than you can get a student loan. So it's backwards.
This means that at the age of 26, after 4 years of undergraduate, 4 years of medical school, the doctor is going to be worth negative $280,000. This is without earning or investing a single dime. Now, I'm not including interest payments on the debt or cost of living, just to keep this simple. Then after 8 years of school and $280,000 of debt, the doctor is then going to go between 3 and 5 years of residency. So let's assume 4 years of residency, and each year of residency pays $60,000 before taxes or $50,000 after taxes.
Yeah, so most residents make about anywhere between, depending on your program that you're at, what part of country, what type of program, what level of residency that you're in, anywhere between, let's say, $55,000 to $75,000 per year. So on average, maybe $60,000 is pretty realistic about how much residents make. And I have another video about that, and I'll put that right up here.
So now flash forward, our doctor's 30 years old. Our doctor has completed 4 years of undergraduate, 4 years of medical, 4 years of residency. And during those 4 years of residency, the doctor was able to pay down the student loans by $100,000, leaving his total net worth at the age of 30 as negative $180,000. But after residency, the doctor all of a sudden starts earning a lot more money at the age of 31. Now remember, our plumber's the same age and making $100,000 before taxes. Our doctor, on the other hand, is going to make $320,000 before taxes, or $250,000 after taxes.
So that number, it varies very widely depending on your specialty, what part of country that you're in, academic versus private practice versus an employed position, how long have you been doing this, what other forms of income that you have as a physician. But if you're just counting kind of the salary, kind of across the board, and if you're talking about a specialist who's did extra years of training, orthopedic surgery, you're talking anywhere between $500,000 to $800,000 per year. Spine surgery, kind of similar. Neurosurgery is up there, $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 per year. So this number, if you're looking kind of across the board, if you're including pediatricians versus internal medicine doctors versus hospitalists, sure, $250,000, That's reasonable if you look all across the board, but I think that number is pretty low as well.
Remember, of that $250,000 after taxes, half of that is going to be going to pay down the student loan.
That depends on how aggressive you are, and most people are not that aggressive in terms of using half of their salary to pay down student loans, although there are some people out there that do that. So
with that math, at the age of 32, our doctor is going to have all the student loans paid off and a net worth of $75,000. So now at the age of 40, assuming the doctor is still making $320,000 a year before taxes and investing half of his take-home pay, the doctor will then have a net worth of $1,575,000. And keep in mind, this is at the age of 40.
Assuming that that physician paid off all those student loans within 1 to 2 years, which is not very common.
So now let's say at the age of 40, our doctor gets another pay raise from $320,000 to $450,000 a year before taxes. Now let's assume that's $350,000 after taxes, and the doctor continues to invest half of it. By the age of 50 years old, our doctor is going to be worth $6.1 million, or $2.3 million more than the plumber. Now this is where it gets super interesting. The break-even point between when the plumber and when the doctor are worth exactly the same is at the age of 42.
Also, depends on if you're a non-traditional student or not. I went to medical school, started a lot later than most of my peers. There are some people who have full careers and go to medical school at, let's say, 35 or 40, so you have to take that into account also.
This means that both professions that took wildly drastic paths are worth exactly the same at this point. Now, there are some variables here that could impact things drastically, like the plumber could have started their own business and made even more money and invested even more money. The doctor could end up with way more debt that takes way longer to pay off, or the doctor could have ended up earning way more money than $320,000. The doctor could maybe earn $500,000 per year. So either profession could really swing wildly in each direction. I also understand that the doctor could have a higher quality of life with a lot more discretionary income to spend. But this doesn't really include all the hours worked as a doctor and how that might be a lot more demanding than that of a plumber, or all the unpaid time in medical school that the doctor has spent studying and working. So there are some variables between the two that could swing things either way. Now, I also understand that most people that go into medicine don't do it for the money, and they do it because they really enjoy it and they enjoy helping people. But there are people out there that just think that becoming a doctor is going to be a surefire way to make the most money possible, and this isn't always the case.
I agree with him. Don't go into medicine for the money. It is not worth it. The amount of time, the amount of effort, sacrifices that you have to make, and the amount of time that you just spend along this path, certainly not worth it.
Although the entire point of this video is just to illustrate that the prestige of a career has less of an impact than just saving and investing consistently early on, and how that really has the biggest impact.
Don't go into it for the money, and just like he said, get into a point where you are financially independent. You have to start very early. You have to just take advantage of that compounding interest. The sooner that you start saving and putting money aside, the more and sooner that you'll be able to become financially independent. So yeah, so pretty good synopsis of the wealth building potential of a plumber versus a doctor. Certainly, like I mentioned, don't go into medicine for the money. If you can start early on in terms of investing and put money aside, there's a couple of different trains of thought, whether you should pay off your student loans and be really aggressive with that once you're done with your training, and let's say refinance your student loans to 2% or 3%, and then use that money to put it into the stock market and try to capture some of that 8%. So different trains of thought. Dave Ramsey, who I listen to a lot, he always talks about paying off of all of your debt first before you do any type of investing. And other people, they suggest that you should kind of pay off your student loans, kind of a minimal amount, and then use that money to, that difference, to put it towards the stock market so you can earn money during this time. So do what's best for you and your family. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but kind of laying out kind of what I have learned kind of along this process. But I hope you guys enjoy this video. Hope that you find it helpful, and make sure you like, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.